supposed to bring it back with you. What happens if you have it or you're found in possession of it?
Next Wednesday, marijuana will become legal for recreational use in all of Canada. News 10 NBC investigative reporter Jennifer Lukey got an exclusive interview with Border Patrol agents to find out what you need to know before heading north. Jen?
Well, Brett, the bottom line is if you're going to Canada to use recreational marijuana, use it there and leave it there, because if you're caught trying to cross the border back into the United States with any amount of it, you'll pay big time. U.S. Border Patrol agents at the crossings here in New York State already confiscate their fair share of marijuana on a daily basis. Sometimes traffickers are trying to smuggle it across in large quantities. Other times it's left in the pockets of those who use it personally. But now that marijuana will be legal in Canada, American agents are expecting to find it even more frequently. So what's that mean for you? Well, if you're an American citizen trying to get back home, expect to be asked where you were and what you were doing. You may also be asked directly whether you used marijuana.
That could be asked. Is it asked of every single traveler? No. Depends on what the officer sees and what their perception is at that time. But it is a question, sure.
And if someone tells you, yes, I visited a marijuana facility, or yes, that's where I was, does that increase the level of scrutiny that they'll be under?
Well, you could ask, you could get follow-up questions. Are you bringing anything back with you?
And customs agents say be truthful.
Not telling the truth is just going to lead to more questioning, and these officers are experts at lie detection. So not telling the truth is just going to make it harder for you crossing the border.
You're not supposed to bring it back with you. What happens if you have it or you're found in possession of it?
Well, right now, it is still illegal in New York State, so depending on the amount you have, you could be subject to arrest, either locally or federally. And you could also be subject to a fine starting at $500 and up, depending on how many times we found it in your possession.
American citizens can't be denied entry, but local police will be called for anything over 25 grams. That's enough weed to fill up a standard Ziploc bag. Anything less will be confiscated, and you'll be fined between $500 and $5,000. Border Patrol also keeps permanent records. So if you're busted for possession at the border, you'll be subject to more stringent inspections every time you try to cross in the future. Now, Border Patrol tells me, Brett, that you shouldn't expect any longer lines than normal. They're not bringing in any extra staff or any extra dogs, but they are, of course, going to be more vigilant and more questions.
I know this is looking ahead, Jen, but there's been a lot of talk about recreational marijuana becoming legal in New York State. If that were to become the case, will anything change at the border?
No, it won't, because even if it's legal here in New York, it will not be legal federally, and our borders are, of course, federal land. And so basically, you can still be charged federally. Even if the state officials won't come and pick you up for marijuana possession, the feds still will. So even folks with medical marijuana, they are not allowed to cross the border with it. It gets confiscated. They could technically be fined, and they say, Border Patrol agents say New York is very upfront about that. They approved it under those certain circumstances, and they told people who have medical prescriptions for it, you only get it if you don't bring it across the border with you.
You got more coming up tonight at 11.
More tonight at 11, specifically about Canadians. And, you know, there's American citizens can't be denied entry back into the United States if they're found with marijuana. But Canadian citizens trying to come here, they're under a whole different set of rules, and you would be surprised how strict they will be.
All right. Look forward to that. Jen, thanks. Right now, investigators continue their search for answers in a weekend limo crash outside Albany that killed 20 people. Today, several hearses left Albany Medical Center to bring the victims to funeral homes. On Saturday, the limo drove through a stop sign and crashed in Schoharie. 18 people inside the limo died, as well as 2 pedestrians. The New York Times reports that one of the passengers texted a friend that the limo's motor was so loud that it was making them deaf. The family of a driver today says that they believe he didn't know that he was assigned an unsafe vehicle. Tonight, we're also hearing from the attorney representing the owner of the limo company.
Right around noon, 1 o'clock, we're talking to the investigators, and they were told that the fleet of vehicles had been taken off the road. And then a couple hours later, we find out that they had been ordered to take them off the road. And we've already done that. So, again, if I can assure the public, we're doing everything in the world we can to demonstrate the fact that we want to comply and we want to help with the investigation.
Friends and families of the victims are trying to rally in support of those left behind. 34-year-old Rob Dyson was from Seneca Falls. He and his wife, 33-year-old Mary, both died in the crash. Now his former classmates from Minders Academy have set up a GoFundMe account for his 3-year-old son. Relatives are also remembering 34-year-old Rich Steenberg, his 29-year-old brother Axel, and Axel's wife, 29-year-old Amy. Their aunt in Henrietta is preparing to travel to Albany to deal with the aftermath of the crash.
This has been a huge hit to the community. I think everybody's in shock.
I just feel helpless right now. We're waiting for information as to when, funerals and things are going to take place. And my brother saying, I never thought I would be asking my little sister for help or to come along and hold my hand.
So far, no formal funeral arrangements have been announced for any of the victims. New at 6, Albion schools will reopen tomorrow after a water main break canceled classes today. Crews worked today to make repairs. Students are reminded that PSAT tests are still scheduled for tomorrow morning. Stretched into today, meteorologist Robert Spetta joins us with a quick check of the first alert forecast. Robert?
Well, it is October heat. I think that's what you can call it here. 86 degrees was the high, and it wasn't quite record-breaking. The record was 88, set back in 1949, but look how far above average we are. Average is 62 degrees. The low of 73 was still over 10 degrees above the average high for today. So it's just absolutely warm, splendid conditions. Tomorrow it's going to be similar, a little bit cooler, but similar. And then things are going to cool down. So get out there and enjoy it. Even currently, we're still 83 in Rochester, a little cooler near the lake, Greece at 72, but across the board into the 80s, just unusual for October, mid-October. That's all I'll say. 82 degrees here expected on Wednesday. It's a warm summer-like day, but by evening, clouds are going to start to increase. And that is thanks to our system down towards the south and a low coming in from the west. Both of them we are watching, and I'll give you full details on these and how that's going to change our weather pattern coming up here in just a few minutes.
All right, Rob, thanks. New at 6, Governor Andrew Cuomo criticized reports that FEMA removed generators from Puerto Rican communities still without power. Cuomo said that the power grid in Puerto Rico remains unreliable. He called for a stronger commitment from the federal government to the island and said that New York will continue offering any help that it can. Meanwhile, Governor Cuomo's opponent in next month's election wants an investigation into the governor's office. Republican Mark Molinaro cited a report where the head of the Working Families Party says a Cuomo aide tried to get Cynthia Nixon's name off of November's ballot. Molinaro wants the state's Joint Commission on Public Ethics to investigate a possible abuse of power. The Cuomo spokesperson denied any wrongdoing to the Albany Times-Union. $500,000 to bring healthy food to more people in our area. That story's still ahead. But first, dozens of victims in a phone scam in New York. What the caller said to con people out of thousands. Plus, why a local ambulance service may be headed off the road. The actions that leave town leaders looking for answers tonight. New at 6, 2 men admitted to scamming thousands of dollars from New Yorkers in a phone scam. The state attorney general's office says the men threatened to kill the victims' relatives. A Syracuse man and a man from Puerto Rico pleaded guilty to grand larceny and conspiracy. Investigators say they made off with $14,000 from at least 55 victims. Also new at 6, nearly $500,000 coming to our area to bring fresh produce to neighborhoods that don't have stores. The funding will allow FoodLink's curbside market to expand throughout the Rochester area. Funding for the expansion comes from the USDA. This is the 6th year of the mobile farmers market. The goal is to bring fresh and affordable produce to areas that might not have the easiest time finding it. The future of a local ambulance service may be short. Ahead, what led to a massive budget deficit, plus an offer of help, how New Yorkers could play a role in Hurricane Michael recovery. And Robert's back with the latest track of Michael and a look at when temperatures will cool down in Rochester's only 10-day forecast. Greece school leaders meet tonight to decide if a $107 million school improvement plan will move forward. A plan before the school board calls for improvements to all 17 schools in Greece. The Reimagine Greece proposal includes remodeling buildings and athletic fields and improving school security.
With the security concerns that people have associated with schools and all public places, we want to have that extra layer so that when they come in, it's into a confined area and only those people that are vetted can actually gain access.
My son, he just walked out, but when he was growing up, the fields were not good they played on, And we always said, gee, you know, you need new fields. They were getting hurt, the kids. Yeah, this needs to make progress. Why not?
State dollars and capital reserves would fund the project, meaning no tax hike for Greece homeowners. A vote is set for 6:30 tonight at Greece Arcadia High School. A yes vote would bring the plan before voters. New at 6, the future of ambulance service in Leroy could be determined today. The town is holding a straw vote to see what neighbors want to do. It could come down to adding a tax district or completely dissolving the company. News 10 NBC Stephanie Robusto is in Leroy with what this will mean for the life-saving services.
As it stands right now, if nothing changes, this ambulance service will have to shut its doors in just 2 years. Every year, the Leroy Ambulance Service has to tap into savings to make ends meet, usually amounting to $50,000. Why? Well, one reason is people don't pay their bills.
Right now, for this year, we have over $80,000 in receivables that people haven't paid us.
That $80,000 owed could keep the service running. The president of the ambulance service going to local and state lawmakers to change how insurance companies issue those claim checks.
They write the check to the patient, and they won't put our name on the check, and so the patient gets the money, and they think it's Christmas.
He says of the 1,200 calls last year, only 750 were billable.
That, coupled with the fact we sent a bill for Medicare and Medicaid last year for $1 million, and they only paid us $425,000.
So now neighbors will determine what to do during today's straw vote.
Our town council meeting is Thursday evening, so we'll be able to get the results of the straw vote and see where we go from there.
Voters have 3 options. One is creating a Leroy ambulance district, which would be around $48 for a $100,000 assessed home, but no out-of-pocket cost to patients.
If it's going to cost a little extra money than what we've, had to pay in the past, then definitely we should try to keep it.
The second is having the town subsidize the service through its budget.
About 2 years ago, the ambulance was here. I happened to get my wife to it, and it saved her life. Without it, she probably would not have survived.
The third option is dissolving the ambulance service and using Mercy Flight EMS in Batavia, which covers all of Genesee County and could triple the response time. The straw vote will continue until 8 p.m. tonight. Then town leaders will take the results to determine where to go from here. Reporting in Leroy, Stephanie Robusto, News 10 NBC.
Thank you, Stephanie. New York State leaders today vowed help for preparation and recovery as a strengthening Hurricane Michael moves toward Florida's Gulf Coast. The storm just grew to a Category 3 storm with winds of 120 miles per hour. The state offered to deploy a 15-member Swiftwater rescue team to the storm region if needed.
Now from News 10 NBC, here's your first alert forecast with meteorologist Robert Speta.
And one of the things that with this storm, I just actually got a message from somebody is, where did this come from? Did it come just out of nowhere? Because just 48 hours ago, we weren't really talking about Michael. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest problems with this system. It continues to intensify rather quickly. So people along the Florida Panhandle may be caught a little off guard by this. Now, I know warnings are in place, evacuations are as well in place, but if you have any friends or family out there, be sure to contact them and let them know this is a very dangerous storm system. Take a look at the satellite imagery, and this is the higher end. We're talking about levels close to Florence, not as strong as Florence, but still, it's a Category 3. It's a major hurricane here. We can actually zoom in and already starting to see some of those outer rain bands come on shore. And even as some of these outer rain bands, those cannot be discounted as nothing. In fact, some of them could even hold that threat of a few tornadoes pulling up with them, as well as short-time heavy rain and some fairly gusty winds. But as we head into tonight, through tomorrow morning, things are going to go downhill pretty quickly as Michael starts to approach. Winds right now sustained at 120 miles per hour. It's expected to maintain that Category 3 intensity over the Gulf of Mexico, coming onshore right around Pensacola, west of Panama City, as we go ahead into Wednesday early afternoon. That's 1 p.m. there. That little point right there, just west of Panama City. And it's that right front quadrant where you could see that highest winds, but also that highest threat of storm surge. And I think that we're going to see pretty significant flooding along that immediate coastline. And that's why hurricane warnings have been issued for the entire Florida Panhandle, even extending all the way out here towards the east as well. So let's walk through the timing of this storm system as we go ahead into Wednesday early afternoon. Already starting to see that eye wall come on shore there around Panama City, just towards the east of it. That pushes on shore, and then if we pull back the picture, it moves across the Panhandle. It gets wrapped up with another low that's actually developing in the central U.S. that's going to be impacting our area. So of course we're going to continue to watch this, but I want to talk about that system because that's going to bring us some rainfall here locally. Right now, it's actually over Colorado, moving across Nebraska and Kansas, bringing some snowfall there, believe it or not, even some tornado warnings out ahead of it. So a very complex system. As that develops, it's going to pull towards the east. Before that happens, we're going to have a pretty mild night here tonight, 68 degrees. Tomorrow we get up to 82. It's a warm summer-like day, absolutely brilliant. But then things are going to start to go downhill and change up. Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, we're already starting to see some rain from that low out towards the west. That's going to come through just prior to sunrise. That's when I expect some of the heavier showers. Could see some pooling up on a few of the roadways and some poor drainage areas. And then that's going to move off towards the east. About 7, 8 o'clock, the bulk of the heavier showers is going to be gone, but still we're going to see some scattered rainfall as we head into the late morning. And then by the afternoon, things will start to clear up here across western New York. But I think the big topic is going to be the drop in temperatures. These are the real field temperatures. The wind chill could be into the 30s for a few out there by the weekend, especially into the southern tier. And that's why I think we're actually going to see our first frost of the year. But take a look at the extended forecast. The big thing to take away is that we got that heat, we get the showers on Thursday, and then it returns the autumn-like weather by the end of the week, Brett.
And it'll feel like October.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Coming up, have Bills fans seen the last of Nathan Peterman? Plus, Rich Donnelly introduces us to the Scholar Athlete of the Week. That's next in sports.
Now, News 10 NBC Sports with Rich Donnelly.
He's one of the leaders on one of the best football teams in all of Section 5, and he's been on the high honor roll every semester of high school. And because of that, he's our Scholar Athlete of the Week.
You're a part of something bigger. You learn to give up your own pride and think less about yourself and think more about your team.
It's a very mature view of football for a high school senior, but then again, Aquinas senior Nick Onachino is a very mature guy. He's the center on the Aquinas football team and plans to continue playing football in college. Next year, he'll study neuroscience at the University of Rochester.
I've always been interested in the medical field. I want to be a surgeon. And then concussions and CTE have always interested me, being a football player. So I kind of want to study CTE, see how it works, learn more about it.
Nick is more than prepared for the next level, both on the field and off of it. He's a 3-year starter for the Little Irish and also a member of the National Honor Society. Oh, by the way, his grade point average is better than 100.
I've always had a good work ethic, and it was a lot of late nights of studying, doing homework. But I think it was worth it in the end to keep the grade point average that high.
Well said, Nick. And congratulations on being the News 10 NBC Scholar Athlete of the Week. Presented by Nixon Peabody and the Ide family of dealerships. Nick and Aquinas beat McQuaid over the weekend and are the top seed in the Class AA standings. Speaking of high school football, voting is still open for our Touchdown 10 Game of the Week. Over in baseball, it's a must-win situation for the New York Yankees, and they're turning the ball over to CC Sabathia. CC has not gone more than 6 innings since June, so expect a lot of bullpen work from the Yankees. And the Buffalo Bills signed a new quarterback. Veteran Derek Anderson comes to Buffalo, so the Bills have 3 quarterbacks on the roster, and for now, are keeping Nathan Peterman. We're back after this.
Sounds like we have a mild evening in store.
We sure do. Temperatures are going to be about 10 degrees above the average high for our low tonight. 68. Tonight we get up, tomorrow we get up to 82, and then the autumn weather returns back into the low 50s to the 40s to even the low 39 degrees by Sunday.
Enjoy it while it's here. Thanks for making News 10 NBC your choice for news. Have a great night.